for this college football slate. Let's go ahead and get into it. So as always, with every video, I do like to just kind of give a game preview of kind of maybe which games we should be favoring to target, whether that be to it being a close scoring game or highest scoring game or both. To me, those are always going to be the more favorable ones that we want to attack. The unfortunate thing is like a game like Memphis UAB, that would be a game I would want to, a little bit more of a potential for, I guess, a blowout at 7 points, but we're not going to get any props for that game, most likely. Southern Florida versus Connecticut, we might, decently high scoring game, close game as well. South Carolina versus Missouri, kind of a, higher scoring game, close game. Maybe there's something there, but that's kind of the theme this week, is that we are seeing that a lot of the games that we probably would be wanting to go out of our way to play or target, I guess, prop wise, a lot of them are either going to be blowouts or they're going to be games in which we aren't getting any props for. I do want to start with this game though, UCF versus Oklahoma. So we do see that this is going to be a high scoring game. Yes, UCF is projected to lose, but we are getting some good props to start out with those props. So looking at the 9-5 cheat sheet, we're going to see that two of the better props we're going to get, especially for over fantasy points. You guys know I like those ones. Kobe Hudson, and then we scroll down a little bit. And guys, we are getting a bunch of solid props for college football this week. It's great. And then the other one is going to be Baker as well for Central Florida, which to me brings up the question, well, where's their quarterback, Hopkins? Because he is someone that, did do pretty well at the start of the season, has been injured. I'll pull him up here on the DraftKings game log for you. I said Hopkins, I meant Plumlee. Apologies there, guys. But looking at it right now, Plumlee last game did not play any snaps, and that's where like I go into the Roto Wire, their snap log. We can see didn't play any snaps in that game. Okay, he's been out the last 3 games, so we're not too worried about that production against Kansas. Now there always just the risk of him re-aggravating an injury, sure, but the first 2 games he was relatively good, and I think that's why we are getting those good fantasy score props for those other players. But to me, when we're looking at that, I'm like, why wouldn't we be going in on him for the over, maybe passing yards over fantasy score if we're seeing that 2 of the better props that we have available on the day are their over fantasy points for those receivers? And I might do it, guys. I know that on the season, and really just 2 games, we're looking at it. Boise, he didn't get the over, and Kent State, he dominated, but that's Kent State. You expect him to. And so we look at it. Javon Baker, I think we'd expect him to have a good game. And let's just look at the 2-game sample with Plumlee at quarterback for him. So both games, he would not have got the over here. He would have missed it by 0.1. Oh my goodness. But on average, has been able to get the over there. It is a tighter line, but it's 54% likely to hit. We'll take that, especially if we're trying to stack it. And we also have Kobe Hudson. Let's see how he did in those 2 games with Hopkins. A little bit hit or miss with him is what it seems like. And I'm actually curious. Let's take a peek at his snaps. I hope that they've still been the same. No, they were down last week. Did they get blown out by Kansas? Let's take a peek. They did. So that could have been part of the equation as well. I would say that's mostly why. And, they are projected to get blown out in this game as well. But the data is telling us these are 2 of the better props for Central Florida. So I actually don't mind the idea of stacking that. If we are going to, I would do it with over passing yards there with Plumlee. Not a curiosity. I just want to see how Oklahoma ranks on a points per game on average basis for quarterbacks. Definitely tougher sledding there for sure. See passing yards, I think they might have a little bit more games in. No, only 6 like everyone else. And so heck, you take out Western Michigan, Illinois, there you can pass on them. So I'm starting to like that passing one a little bit better. Let's look at points given up as well. Oklahoma, not bad. Okay, so on the slate, we can kind of see why this is a decent one. They're going to be playing from behind. You're going to have to throw a little bit more. I kind of like that prop. So then from there, let's just take a peek at these other ones that we are getting. Samuel Brown for under his fantasy score. Let's take a peek as to why that one's popping up. Okay, so looking at his game log, we can see been a little bit hit or miss there in terms of game log. 2 big spike weeks is what it appears. And PrizePicks is still bouncing. I don't know if that's still happening for you guys. Annoying. But we look at it with him, like he has had some massive games. I'm actually curious. Let's take a peek at this game and then also his snaps just to see if it is one that makes sense. So definitely a high scoring game. Houston definitely projected to get blown out here as well. Worries there for sure. When we look at matchup, not a good matchup on paper. And what I really wanted to see here was the snaps. Yeah, he's playing about 100% of the snaps. And so I don't know if that's exactly what I want to be going in on. But the data is saying this is the best one we are getting. We can see the average sportsbook line would have his fantasy score set at 10.7. The projection data has it at 10.9. FanDuel would have it set at 11. And then PrizePicks at 12.5. They're on him the least. And so this is one of those situations where all 3 other data points that we have coming in are telling us one message. Now, I don't know. This kind of seems like a situation where if we could bet it on the sports books, obviously we're pulling in an equation to get the fantasy score. I wish we could just bet the over there. So I'm going to make that bet still, guys. If you don't want to, I get it. Like, we just went through the process. We can see, like, I don't think it's as much of a lock and load as it seems. The next one would be Rice for under his fantasy score as well. We're going to see that line is basically the exact same thing, where PrizePicks seems to be a lot higher than everyone else. And if we look at the average sportsbook line, they would also be saying the under is the way to go there. And we can see this game with USC is kind of an appealing one here, just in general. 7-point favorites, 52.3 are the average odds. So not like a game we'd want to be staying away from. Now, Rice is someone that has been playing a lot more as well recently. We'll take a peek at the matchup, see if that changes anything. Utah, going against Utah. Let's see here. I'm at receivers. And when we look at it as a whole, Utah is kind of a more difficult matchup for opposing receivers. So I think that's more or less what the under is being reflected there. We look at the prop line, we can see probably going to be close. It wouldn't be shocking to see him have a massive game. At the same time, he's had 2 straight games where the under has hit. So if you guys want to roll with that, by all means, go with that. And then the next good one that we're going to see is going to be Paisley for over his fantasy points. And it's going to be one of the same things where we can kind of clearly see that PrizePicks is a little bit lower than the industry average for this line. 11.3, the average Vegas line, projection day 11.2, FanDuel would have it set at 11.3. So we are seemingly getting an edge here. And personally, this is probably one of my more favorite ones that we have available on the slate. Just looking at it, he's coming in off of a pretty awesome game in the last game. Okay. The game log, some people might not like that, but we go ahead and take a peek at some other stuff. Like we take a peek at his snap counts, like basically playing all the snaps. Love to see that out of a player. We look at the DVP as well. Gets one of the better matchups on the slate. I shouldn't say one of the better matchups, but doesn't get a bad matchup. And so that stuff's all encouraging. And so that's going to be one of the better bets. Now we're getting to some kind of good EV bets. And let's just make sure I have Friday's games clicked off of here. And like these are just going to be good EV bets that we were getting there because we are seeing some prop line differences. It does seem to be that PrizePicks is a little bit lower and PrizePicks is a little bit higher than the average sportsbook line, whereas Underdog is a little bit lower than the average sportsbook line. So there are going to be some opportunities if you guys choose to do so where you could be betting both ways because these are some, pretty decent prop line differences that we are seeing. But I kind of want to focus on fantasy score ones. All these other ones you can kind of blindly click on if you want to do that. I'm fine with it. Now we will see this is a pretty good one right here. Xavier for South Carolina under receptions at 5.5 for PrizePicks. This will probably be one that gets jumped or bumped down, but right now it's a pretty good EV bet there as well. Now one that I don't know if people are going to like is going to be Burton for over his fantasy points, just because Bama has really kind of spread out their production, and we'll see that with their kind of snaps, but also it's just they really just been spreading out the production. We can see it right here. Okay, Burton kind of been all over the place snap count wise. Did have 65% of the snaps last week. That's the most over his last 3 weeks. We'll see. Let's just take a peek at that game. A little bit lower scoring affair as well, so I don't love that, but that's probably why the line is so low for his fantasy points. So not a terrible one there. We can see Wilson for over 3.5 receptions is kind of one that's popping up, but like guys, just the plethora of really good props that we are getting is highly encouraging to me for this slate. And now let's just go ahead and take a quick peek at Underdog as well, seeing if there are good bets there that we can make. And that's interesting. So Jonathan Brooks for under his fantasy points, it's an interesting one there. We got the 2 good Central Florida ones that you can roll with. We have 2 correlated bets right here is what I'm seeing, where you got 2 Florida State players where we could be betting the under, and then we got 2 Central Florida players where we could be betting the over. I like that. You're kind of just betting on both games kind of playing out in a certain way. And then we're just seeing a lot of the same bets are going to be popping up as good bets on Underdog as well. So let's go ahead and give you guys a few slips here. All right, so looking at the bet of the day, I am looking at over bets right here. I'll show you guys one with under bets. As you guys know, I typically don't like to do under bets, but it does seem to be a slate in which we probably should be chasing some of those. Looking at it right now, I do like this game, the UCF Oklahoma game, just because it is supposed to be a high scoring game. You do have UCF that is projected to be playing from behind, but at least that's a high scoring game. Really, these two are going to depend on if Plumlee can have a good game, if he can stay healthy in this game, really. And I think if he does stay healthy, he's going to be able to get to over 200 passing yards. Thus, I do think that these two will be able to get over their fantasy score. I like stacking those ones together. And then we're just rolling with really the best other bets that we have. We saw Burton for over fantasy score is one of the better ones. Presley is probably one, it feels like one of the safer ones on the slate. And then Corey Crooms, He has gotten, I believe, over this like in every single game. Now he gets a more difficult matchup against Iowa. It does, I don't know, it almost feels like Iowa's getting a little bit too much respect after kind of beating Wisconsin last week with their backup quarterback because their starter got injured. At the same time, it's like classic Iowa football. You know, you can't take that away from them. But I do think we are seeing this line a little bit lower because of the matchup, because last week Wisconsin had their second string quarterback playing who's just not that good. And now we just go in and get into the best under bets that we are currently getting. This one is going to be one I think that is going to get bumped to 5 receptions by lineup block. We'll see. And just as an FYI, if you guys want to use mix and match the over and under bets, by all means, go ahead and do that. You know, based off of your research and whatnot. I'm just showing you guys really the best bets for over bets and the best bets for under bets. I just want to separate it out that way. Just we have so many good bets on this Saturday football slate, more than I think we've had in a while. So I just want to break it down that way. Sorry, this one with Rice is supposed to be fantasy points. Okay. Under his fantasy score. Then you got Brown for under fantasy score. We already saw those ones. This one with Illinois, his under 17.5 receiving yards, not bad. You know, you look at his kind of recent game, like 2 out of his last 3 games, he's had 13 receiving yards. The other game, he did get the over, so could be a little bit tighter than you would want. Isaiah Washington, one that he's only hit the over 1 out of his past 5 games, so something there. And then Brendan Smith for less than receiving yards. These are all going to be ones right here where PrizePicks is a little bit higher than his underdog. And so we're getting about a 3-yard difference on those. Maybe if you want to, you could bet the over on those ones over there on underdog. That's going to be all for this video, though. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. Make sure to give a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell as well so you guys can get all the best prop bets right away as the video drops before they get bumped. Comment your guys' favorite play. If you guys want access to the tools, make sure to be clicking the link in the description below. 95sports.com gives you access to the cheat sheet for both underdog and PrizePicks. That's all. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.